What's up, guys? Welcome back to In the Press Box, episode 81. My name is Benjamin. Aiden and Alex could not join us this week, but we push on here on In the Press Box, epic week in sports. So excited to jump into it today. Let's talk about what we're talking about. We're going to be talking about the Euros and Copa America, Wimbledon, NFL, and college football 25. We'll round that out with predictions. Let's jump into this week's headlines in sports, though, first. Euros and Copa America final, Wimbledon final, USA fires Greg Berhalter, college football 25 makes final preparations, and Titans sign Jamal Adams to a one-year deal worth about $1.1 million. Let's jump in first, and let's talk about what I just said right there. Titans signing Jamal Adams to a one-year deal. Overall, I've seen a lot of backlash from the fan base. I'm not a fan of it personally exactly either. I think that we could have gotten better players. But if that's all that we could have gotten, then I'm okay with signing Jamal Adams. You know, you look at what he did with the Jets, looked unbelievable there. The Seahawks, the injury bug kind of got to him, and he did not look as good. So with that being said, not the best signing, but if he can live and perform somehow like how he did with the Jets, then that would make this signing really good. I do like that it's a one-year deal, only worth about $1.1 million, so kind of a lower risk, pretty high reward type deal. So I'm always a fan of those to a degree, but overall not the biggest fan of that signing for the Titans there. But I don't know. Let's see what he can do. I'm excited, though, to see what he can do. So hopefully it works out. Let's move on. Euro and Copa America. Spain versus England preview to start us off. Spain, they come into this one kind of the most dominant force there. The national team, scheduled there in Europe. Lamine Yamal, the young 16-year-old, soon to be 17, I think tomorrow, actually, is what they said. He has been balling out over there as Spain's youngest player to score in a European Championship game. So, big props over there to Lamine Yamal in Spain. Meanwhile, you look at England coming into this one, really talented, not the biggest fan of their coach. They just announced today that they're looking to bring him back, keep him until 2026, and I don't know if I like that decision, but overall, man, England, they look great. They look great in a lot of ways too, but I'm not the biggest fan for England with that matchup with Spain. It'll be interesting to see. If you watch that game, look at the young 16-year-old Lamine Yamal, number 19. He is a baller. That's who I would focus on. I also like Spain's kind of veteran presence, Carvajal, kind of players like that they can bring in, their depth. Both teams loaded with depth, and I think it's going to come down to tactics, and because I trust Spain's coach more, that's who I would be going with. Sorry to spoil my prediction already, but I'm going to go with Spain already in that one. We'll move on. Greg Berhalter fired. Greg Berhalter finally out. USA cuts the cord. It was about time because he was not performing well. He was making up excuses. What sucks about it is the players, I feel like they really liked him, but it just was not meant to be. I just don't think that level was right for him. I think he was the right man to get us out of the mess in 2018, kind of guide us through CONCACAF, but should have cut ties with him after the World Cup and then only the round of the 16 there. So overall, I do thank Greg. I'm not one of those fans that is like completely wants nothing to do with Greg, and I'm sure he'll be very successful wherever he goes next. Probably in the MLS is my guess. Atlanta United, kind of teams like that, maybe even LAFC. We'll have to see. Teams like that kind of looking for a good manager. And if you're an MLS club, I mean, Greg Berhalter is a great manager. I do, and I'm really excited though about our manager, BJ Callahan. So overall, it'll be interesting to see what happens. USA, they reach out to Jurgen Klopp, one of the most famous managers of all time. He politely declined, kind of hoping that was going to work out, of course, but it doesn't look like it is. Then you look at kind of who we're expected to get, and it's Steve Cherundolo from LAFC. That is just, no, not good. Not what we want, not what I want, and I don't think, honestly, what anybody wants. Maybe Alex would want that. I don't know. We'll have to see, but that's not good. I mean, this whole MLS-U.S. soccer partnership, it's great, but it's too deep. I feel like it's starting to get a little over the top. We need to get experience. We need to get Zidane, Jurgen Lowe, someone like that, someone who provides more for this team than just MLS. I mean, I love the MLS. I'm one of the people that does support the MLS, but even I can admit you got to separate the national team because we're at this point. We don't have Michael Bradley or Josie Altidore leading us. We have Christian Pulisic. That man's in the that man is in Europe. He's not in the MLS. So there's a big difference right now. I think this team, this generation, they're above MLS level, led by Christian Pulisic, McKennie, and there's just a whole bunch of things that did not work under Greg. I didn't like the tactics. I didn't like the subs. I just feel like the players, as much as they loved him, I feel like they were a little bit lazy. I'm not one of those people that needs it to be all Belichick-esque and all disciplined and, blah, blah. But you got to have a little bit of discipline. It just looked like they didn't have that discipline. There's several instances of players getting in trouble, certain things like that. And you just don't want that kind of thing. And especially someone like McKennie, too, just kind of felt like he fell a little bit out of form. And there's just a lot of players I kind of felt were not reaching their full potential under Greg, and I'm sure a lot of people felt that way, and I'm sure the U.S. board felt that way, and that's why he's gone. I also think that the U.S. board was maybe kind of waiting to see how fans would react to see if they could potentially keep him, but no, we were not going to react well to that, so they had to cut ties with Greg. Wish Greg nothing but the best. Time to go, though. Argentina and Colombia preview, man. Messi has a chance to get a second Copa America. You look at all that he's been through. 2016, having to, retire, or not having to, but deciding to retire from international play after that penalty miss. And it's kind of, I've always thought it's always been Ronaldo on the national team stage, but you look at what's happened, and Messi's got the World Cup. And if Messi wins this, now he'll have 2 Copa Americas. Ronaldo only has 1 Euro. So without a doubt, Messi's my GOAT, and this would make it even more strongly that I feel that way, that Messi is the GOAT. But let's just, appreciate both of these players while they're still around. 2 great athletes. But Argentina, Colombia, that's going to be fun. You look at Colombia, too. They come into this one, longest unbeaten streak for a national team right now in the world. So they're a great side. They fought hard against Uruguay. Kind of some weird antics after the match. I don't even know what to make of that. Kind of players fighting in the stands. I mean, it was bizarre. So we'll have to see how that pans out there with Colombia and for Uruguay in terms of suspensions. I think it was mainly the Uruguay players that were in the stands, but who knows? They may kind of fine Colombia some money as like a federation. I don't really know how that's going to play out, but that was insane. That was wild after the match. So I don't know. We'll have to see. I'm also really excited to see how many fans. These are the 2 countries where they've really dominated in fans in Copa America. Colombia, every single game that I watch, they always have the majority of the fans. In Argentina with Messi, I mean, of course they're going to have a majority of the fans. So I'm really kind of excited to see who wins the fan battle between these 2 in Miami. I think it'll probably be Argentina, but I don't know. Messi's backyard, I would have to think it would be Argentina, but it'll be interesting, and that really plays a factor, in my opinion. The fans can really hype up the players, get them going. That stuff really matters, so it'll be kind of interesting to see what happens there. Wimbledon final preview. Dream matchup. Djokovic and Alcaraz. Djokovic's side of the draw, really easy. A lot of fans were kind of talking about that. Meanwhile, you look at Alcaraz, his side of the draw, pretty challenging. They both end up here. Djokovic kind of ends up playing Musetti, some of the younger players, some of the qualifying players, and then De Minaur withdrew a couple rounds ago, making sure that Novak gets into the semifinals, which he just finished up about an hour ago. Playing Musetti, takes care of business. He's in the final. Now you look at, though, Carlos Alcaraz. He's had a tough draw really from the start, and he started off slow in each match. So that's kind of one key that I look for if you watch this match. Carlos Alcaraz in his start, if he starts off fast and goes quick, Djokovic is in real trouble. But everybody knows that watches tennis, every single person knows the best mental game, doesn't matter what's happening, the person who always has the best mental game is always 10 out of 10 times Novak Djokovic. I don't know how this man does it. Every time the mental game is 10 out of 10, so he's never out of a match until it's truly over. He can be down 2 sets and still in it. So we have to see, because if Alcaraz does not start off well, he's going to be in a lot of trouble against Novak, because Novak just has that way of just kind of suffocating the opponent out of the match. He did that today against Musetti. You go to any tiebreak with Novak, you're going to lose that. Why? Because that's when the pressure gets real. And when the pressure gets real, Novak Djokovic delivers every single time. I don't know what's with this man, with his mental game. Seriously impressive. He's my GOAT. Forever and ever, a Novak fan, baby. And excited to see this one play out. I'll have the prediction down below in about a few minutes here. Now we move on. Probably the title of this video, College Football 25. Who are we revealing? I'll go first. Okay, my top 3 teams are Washington State, New Mexico, and Vanderbilt. The team that I will rebuild first is the Vanderbilt Commodores, baby. Vanderbilt, you have my rebuild. Let me put on that cap. It's not a great cap, but that's okay. We work with it. Vanderbilt, you have my rebuild first, and I'm going to put an hours with this team. Vanderbilt deserves this. They deserve to be good again. You know, it has been a long time coming. They're always the little guys in the SEC. They're always the underdog in the SEC, and I like an underdog. I like a little guy. So I picked Vanderbilt to rebuild first. Number 3 was Washington State. I like them. I like the crowd that they brought. I like the energy that they brought, but the conference situation was weird, and I don't want to realign conferences. I want to make this super realistic. It was kind of weird there. New Mexico, I love New Mexico. Everybody knows New Mexico is near and dear to my heart. The problem with New Mexico is that they just don't always play great teams. They don't get the big draw. And I'm looking for a team that is really bad but can get a big draw, and that's Vanderbilt. They're really bad, but we're in the SEC, so we get to play, the Alabamas, the Georgias, the LSUs, even the Tennessees, right? And that's another fun aspect. I'm going to be updating each week. How does this go? What's happening in my save? And maybe we'll beat Tennessee. We'll have to see. But enough of me talking. Let's see who Aiden and Alex are rebuilding. They got a video prepared for you guys. Take it away.
Hello guys, it's Aiden from In the Press Box, and just like Alex, unfortunately I will not be able to join this week's podcast, but shout out to Benjamin because he's doing it by himself once again. But anyway, I'm going to be revealing my top 3 teams, or teams that I'm yet to reveal, to see who I'm rebuilding first. And yes, so the teams I have is Sam Houston, MTSU, and Hawaii. And at number 3, I have Hawaii. The location's good. The uniform, the color scheme's that's all there. But unfortunately, I just don't see it as much as I wanted to rebuild them as much as these other 2 teams. So, yeah, that's why they're at number 3. At number 2, or I guess I'll announce my number 1 because then you'll already know my number 2 or number 1. But at number 1, I have MTSU because they're like really close. I'm not gonna say too much, but they're kind of close to where we live. We probably have already exposed that on the podcast. And yeah, the reason why I wanted to rebuild them not only because they're close, because I like their uniforms. I like the chrome helmets they have. I like the black uniforms. I like the color schemes as well. And I think it's gonna be a really good, interesting team to rebuild. And I'm not gonna make a graphic just like Bordeaux. I'm not gonna have this all Twitter stuff. I'm not gonna do all that. But I will say the NTSU does deserve to be rebuilt more than Nebraska. So screw that, Benjamin. Anyway, NTSU is my number 1, and Sam Houston is my number 2 because, they're a newer team. That's the only reason why I had them so high on the list. But unfortunately, all these other things I said about MTSU, I favor them more. And that will be my first team to rebuild is MTSU. Thank you, guys.
Hello, it's Alex here, and I'm sorry that I was not able to be on last week's episode. Or this week's episode, actually. So here's my top 3 football teams. I'm very excited for all the teams I'm rebuilding. I'm probably going to end up rebuilding multiple teams. But my top 3 teams are WKU, Tennessee, and Middle Tennessee State University. And TSU in Western Kentucky was WKU. So the first team that I will be eliminating will be the Vols. No surprising, but when you're as good as the Vols, there's no need to rebuild a team that's really good. Now, the last 2 things is MTSU, Western Kentucky. MTSU, I really like the team, I like the colors. there's my home city team, Western Kentucky. I really like the mascot, kind of like the vibe. I like the colors, and they're kind of right at a mediocre fan base, really the same. But the deal breaker to me was, in this case, was Big Red. I mean, he's a really good mascot, and that is why I will be rebuilding Western Kentucky. Thank you, Benjamin, for doing this podcast this week. And you know what? I'm off. Go back to Benjamin.
All right, there you go, guys. So very interesting choices there. Alex with Western Kentucky, Aiden with MTSU. It's kind of funny because they're rivals, so we'll kind of see how that works out. The sibling rivalry runs deep in this podcast, but overall, excited to be rebuilding Vanderbilt. Super excited for the game coming out on Monday. So overall, anchor down VU. Let's go. All right, let's move on to predictions to wrap up the episode. Who wins Wimbledon is the first question. I'm going to pick Novak Djokovic. I picked him to win the French Open. He tore the meniscus. Doesn't work. We're going with Novak again. It's worth 3 points. My glorious king, Novak Djokovic. Let's get it. And let's hope that, he can pull this out. It's going to be really tough. We'll have to see, how does the knee hold up? Does he have the endurance? I'm going to bank on the fact that he does in 5 sets because it is Novak Djokovic, the best mental game, the best conditioning. He takes care of himself. I like him in a grueling 5-set match against Alcaraz. So I'm going to go with Novak. Spain versus England in the Euros final. Already picked Spain. You guys know why. Argentina against Colombia. Interesting pick here. I am going to go with Argentina. I've backed Argentina in this tournament from the start. I'm sticking with Argentina. Messi gets his second Copa America, his third major national team trophy. This is big. Next, we go to number 5, Seattle Sounders against Austin FC. I have the Seattle Sounders in that one. Exciting one, but I'm going to go with Seattle. Charlotte FC against FC Cincinnati. I'm going to go with FC Cincinnati in that one. Supporter Shield. Probably going to go to Cincy. Luciano Acosta. Unbelievable. Real Salt Lake against the Portland Timbers. I'm going to go with the Timbers. Too much energy there at home for Salt Lake to stand. Columbus Crew against LAFC. I got the Crew in that one. Absolute monster matchup there late night. But I'm going to go with the Columbus Crew and Cucho Hernandez. Nashville SC against DC United to close us out. NSC all the way in that one. Not even close. DC United really struggling. Shout out, though, I do like DC United a little bit, but DC United really struggling, so I am going to go with NSC. But that concludes this week's episode. Exciting week in sports. We'll have a full stack lineup next week. We'll break down and recap all the finals, talk a little bit more about college football, maybe a little bit more about the Olympics and the NFL preview because those two are coming up soon. But overall, guys, excited to start with Vanderbilt. Let's rock. Thank you for watching. Peace out.